Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Tom Worth Jr. Thursday night in December. Maybe you'll be watching this on Friday, end of the week. But Syria on my mind again. In this case, the difference between people trying to build a country versus people trying to tear it down. People, and by people, of course, we mean Donald Trump. The leader in charge over there, or at least in charge of the rebel faction that got down to Damascus, former ISIS guy, has been somewhat cleaner over the last few years and is saying they will have multi-faith, multicultural, no word on women yet. I presume they would be left out of the equation, as these are pretty hardcore Islamists. But the guy's named a transition prime minister, a transition team, interim team, whatever you want to call it. He is trying to build a government. And you look at Donald Trump, he is naming people to, and he says this, and Elon Musk says this, they're trying to dismantle our government. So let that sink in. You have Syria, which is utter chaos, utter mess. The guy, another thing, so more is coming out over the past few days. They've made it to the notorious prison up outside of Damascus, and people have had high hopes for relatives that have been captive for years, in some cases decades, and in some cases going back to this Assad's father, who was the original Assad ruler. Also brutal dictator. And they are, it's not a good scene up there. It's far worse than they thought it was. This is the place where over 30,000 people have been executed over the years. And it's like kind of the first thing that people did once word got out that Assad had fled, that he had flown away, probably to Moscow, somewhere in Russia. They all made their way towards this notorious prison where loved ones had just gone and never heard from again. Political prisoners, dissidents, students, people who had said anything bad about the government, they would go there and they would be tortured, they would be executed. But their word would trickle out every now and then that someone was still alive, and there wasn't anything you could do about it. So it just tells you what kind of situation these people have been living under. If you were lucky enough to survive, and you were lucky enough to stay out of the way of this guy, then you might know someone who's in that just awful, terrible hell. And the road was jammed with cars, so people would get out, walk on foot the last couple miles. I was hearing this from an Economist reporter who was one of the first foreign correspondents on the scene up there, and it's just horrific what they found, and not really many survivors. So I don't know. It's just a terrible situation. In the midst of all of that, you have a leader who has no experience leading a country, but he knows that it's important to have a government. And this is the exact opposite of what Donald Trump is trying to do. He's trying to get the most unqualified people in there to tear down our government. To what end, I don't know. Nobody knows. He's got half the country behind him, though. I mean, I get it. Congress sucks, right? Senators, House of Representatives are all corrupt and they all suck and they don't do anything. But it's our government. We need a government. We need a Department of Education. Not to sound the wrong way here, but we had a kid in private school for the last 6 years of, 7th through 12th grade. And private school is great. our daughter, who was a year older, went to public school all the way through. My wife and I went to public school all the way through. We went to, my wife went to Texas Tech. I went to UT Austin. We just like would never have occurred to us in our, like, we would never even want our kids to go to a private school. We weren't on board with that. We were very against private schools at any level. When it came to my son, some things were in place that had us looking outside the box, and we ended up at a private school, a really good private school, a small private school, and it made a difference in the level of attention you get when your classes are really small and you know the teachers really well, and it's just, I don't know, it can be a better experience. It's expensive. And it bugged us that we had to keep paying our property taxes even when our daughter graduated from high school and our kids were not going to the public school anymore. It kind of bugged us. You just do it, right? I always want good schools because that drives up your property value. People want to move there. They want to live where the good schools are. If you can be in a good school district. The best school districts are the wealthiest school districts, typically. That is not Arlington, Texas. I can assure you it's not a great school district. It's fine. It's average, maybe above average. I doubt it. But it's fine. It was fine for us. But a private school, it has its pluses and minuses. We had to pay for it. This is what I'm getting at. It costs money, and you have to pay for that money. And when you hear programs that the Republicans talk about private school vouchers, couldn't we get government assistance to help with these private school costs? That's going to benefit wealthy people or people who are willing to spend a lot of money on private education. It's not going to benefit everyone. They're not saying we want everyone to be in private school, because then they lose their exclusivity. Unlike us, a lot of people go to private school because of who it puts you in association with, and that's not what we were looking for. We were looking for a better academic situation, very specific case. So when you talk about tearing down or eliminating the Department of Education because it costs money, like at some point, are you going to eliminate property taxes paying for public schools? Who's going to pay for public schools? Or is it all going to be private schools? Who gets into those private schools? These are the kinds of questions that Donald Trump's people, it would never, maybe even if it did occur to them, they wouldn't care what the answer was as long as their people could go to these schools. That's disconcerting. But what's more disconcerting is just government in general, that you have a Republican Party that is actively trying to dismantle our government while Syria is actively trying to build a government. In the face of Israel bombing all of their military facilities, sinking their entire navy, Russia got their ships out before that happened. I'm sure Israel wouldn't have hit any Russian ships. But it's all happening so fast and there's so much to keep up with. But this guy with no experience knows that you have to have a government, and that legitimizes your country. And that's what Donald Trump does not want. He does not want a legitimate country with a legitimate government, to be part of legitimate trade organizations. I can assure you, China is beating down the door to be invited to trade organizations that we are saying, or that Donald Trump is saying he wouldn't take part in. I don't know that China gets into them, but they realize the value of these organizations, of these trade partnerships. And the United States used to realize the value of that. Before the United States, Britain and France realized the value of that. That's what gave them their world power. Athens, 2,400 years ago. This is what gives states the true power and influence around the world, our partnerships around the world. And Donald Trump wants to just withdraw from everything because he doesn't care about the United States. He only cares about him and his power. I've said this for months now, but it's frustrating when you're going through all of these serious stories and all of this tragedy and all of this unspeakable horror that these people are going with. And still, in the face of all of that, there is a guy who hasn't lost sight of the fact that they need to build a government to govern. And all I can think of, that's the exact opposite of Donald Trump and the entire Republican Party that will not stand up to him. I was going to get to the NATO ambassador, this guy. There's better videos on that guy that will do it justice. But it's just also laughable. We've got China is proactively, okay, the trade war that Donald Trump is intending to start with his tariffs as soon as he takes office in a month and a week. China's not waiting around for Donald Trump. They know he's going to do it. He has targeted them. And so they are saying in this antitrust case against NVIDIA, hey, we're going to play ball in the war. We're not going to play ball with your tariff ridiculousness. We are going to engage in this trade war. We're going to kick your ass again, just like we did in your first term, Donald Trump. That's how China's going into this. And I fear that they will be right once again, that Donald Trump will have to back down again after costing us a higher price of living for who knows how long. After product shortages again and component shortages, and I remember not being able to buy any cars because it was missing like one chip. China's already going to withhold certain key elements for electronics. So the dude never learned, and it sucked living through 2020 and really 2021 when things supposedly were open back up, but we had all of these supply chain issues. Some of them were caused by COVID backups, but a lot of them were caused by China and the trade war, and Trump will never accept that. So we're powerful, but France is already talking to other people. France had Trump when he was over there for Notre Dame. Macron had Trump and Zelensky meet. Probably nothing came of it, but Macron is already looking at, okay, what am I going to do? Like, obviously Trump's not going to play ball because he probably checked in with Zelensky after the meeting, and Zelensky was probably honest with him, unlike what he would be to the press, because he can't have Trump mad at him. But he probably told Macron what was actually said. And Macron he's a survivor. He's not waiting around on the United States. He's trying to get Trump to play ball, but he's not counting on it. That's what you do to survive politically in the world of former United States allies, that we may have a large group of those soon enough. Very frustrating here. Trying to fight through it. Had a winter wonderland day in the office today. This is why I look like a snowball wearing this big white sweatshirt. It's kind of all I had for all white stuff. But I thought it would be fun. Also got a different background here. I cleared off that bookshelf and put a couple little things that were over in the corner over there. Little things that make me happy. A picture of my kids, and I don't know if this will show up. This is them long ago. This is probably when they're 8 and 9 years old. Hopefully it turned out. Stanford tree from Palo Alto, about 10 years before he went to Stanford. I don't know. Fun stuff. Brings me joy. And hopefully on this December night, you guys can all find something to bring you joy. Will probably not involve reading anything about Trump or Syria, unfortunately. But there are plenty of things to get happy about, and I hope you all find them tonight and going into the weekend. All right, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.